The rain was gentle that evening, the kind that taps on your shoulder instead of slapping your face. I stood on the porch I'd swept every morning for 3 decades, my small cloth suitcase in one hand, the house keys I'd carried since 1994 in the other. The brass doorknob gleamed under the porch light I'd left on for 30 years, just in case someone needed to find their way home. Tonight, the key turned but didn't catch. The lock was new. The click it made was final. My name is Ruth Eleanor Carter. I'm 68 years old, and for the first time since I was 22, I had no address. My son Daniel, my only child, my heart walking outside my body, had changed the locks while I was buying milk and bread. He left a single sheet of notebook paper taped inside the screen door. The handwriting was his, neat and slanted like when he practiced cursive in 3rd grade. It said, "Mom, it's time. The house is ours now. Take care." 6 words. No goodbye, no phone number, no sorry I didn't scream. I didn't pound the door. I just folded the note along its creases and slipped it into my coat pocket. Then I sat on the top step, the one Daniel cracked his chin on when he was 9, and I carried him bleeding to the kitchen, kissing the hurt away while stitching him with ice and love. The rain soaked through my cardigan. I waited. I thought maybe he'd pull into the driveway, see me there, and remember the nights I walked the floor with him when colic kept him screaming, or the mornings I shaped pancakes like Mickey Mouse because he said round ones were boring. But the windows stayed dark. The curtains, yellow gingham I'd sewn myself, didn't twitch. I slept in the garden shed that night. The wooden floor smelled of potting soil and the lavender sachets I kept in the tool drawer. I wrapped myself in the old picnic blanket, the one with faded sailboats Daniel used to trace with his finger while we ate peanut butter sandwiches under the cherry tree. The stars looked exactly the same as they had when he was 5, and we lay on our backs, counting satellites. I whispered his name into the quiet. The night didn't answer. Let me take you back, way back, so you understand how deep these roots go. I was born in Willow Creek, a town small enough that the church bell marked every hour, and everyone waved whether they knew you or not. My father fixed tractors. My mother took in sewing. We lived in a narrow white house with a tin roof that sang when it rained. Money was tight, but love was wide. Mama taught me to cook on a wood stove, to mend a hem so the stitch disappeared, to keep a house warm even when the bank account shivered. A home isn't bricks, Ruthie, she'd say, flower on her cheek. It's the feeling people get when they walk through the door. When I found out I was pregnant at 21, I was terrified. Tom Daniel's father was 23. Handsome in a restless way, always talking about the city, about roads that led somewhere bigger. We married in the courthouse because the church was booked. I wore a pale blue dress I'd made from curtain remnants. Tom kissed me like he meant forever. 9 months later, Daniel arrived, 7 pounds, 2 ounces, with a tuft of dark hair and lungs that announced he was here to stay. Tom lasted 11 months. One morning I woke to an empty side of the bed and a note, "I'm not cut out for this. You'll do better without me." No address, no apology, just gone. I sat on the floor and cried until Daniel started fussing in his crib. Then, I wiped my face, picked him up, and sang, "You are my sunshine" off-key, until he smiled. That was the moment I decided he would never feel abandoned, not if I could help it. The early years blurred together, diapers, midnight fevers, mashed bananas on the ceiling. I waitressed at Millie's Diner from 6 to 2, then cleaned offices till 10. Daniel came with me when daycare fell through. He'd sit in a booster seat in the diner kitchen coloring menus while I refilled coffee. The cooks slipped him extra fries. Regulars left quarters under their plates for the college fund. At night, I rocked him in the glider my mother gave me, humming until my throat ached. His tiny hand always found my necklace, the silver locket with a photo of my parents. He'd fall asleep, clutching it like a secret. When he was 4, I started saving. Every tip, every overtime dollar went into a coffee can labeled house. I taped a picture of a little blue cottage to the fridge. "That's gonna be ours, Danny boy." He'd kiss the picture every morning. By the time he was 7, the can was heavy. I found the house on Maple Lane, peeling paint, sagging porch, but with a yard big enough for a swing set and a cherry tree sapling out back. The realtor said, "It's a fictrippa." I said, "It's a forever-uppa." We closed on a Tuesday. Daniel carried the first box of cardboard carton full of his toy trucks and ran through every room shouting, "This is my castle." We painted the kitchen sunflower yellow. Daniel stood on a chair to reach the high parts, tongue sticking out in concentration. I let him choose the living room color robin's egg, blue wand. He picked out a welcome mat that said "Home Sweet Home" in red cursive. We planted the cherry tree together. He patted the dirt with his plastic shovel and said, "It's gonna grow taller than me, Mama." I believed him. Elementary school, little league, scraped knees, report cards with smiley face stickers. I was at every game, every parent-teacher night. When he was 12, he asked why he didn't have a dad like the other kids. I told him the truth in pieces he could carry. Your daddy loved you, but he was scared. I'm not, I'm here. He nodded, hugged me hard, and didn't ask again. High school brought growth spurts and mood swings. Daniel got quiet, spent hours in his room with headphones. I left notes in his lunchbox, "Proud of you." Slug around, he'd roll his eyes but save them in a shoebox under his bed. He worked weekends at Harper's Hardware, came home smelling of sawdust and teenage certainty. I helped with college applications. He got into the state university 2 hours away. I drove him to orientation, tears in my throat, pride in my chest. "Call any time," I said. He hugged me longer than usual. Then he met Sarah. She was a nursing student with auburn hair and a laugh that turned heads. They met at a campus coffee shop when she spilled a latte on his textbook. He told the story 100 times, always ending with, "Mom." She apologized by drawing a smiley face on the napkin. I liked her immediately. She came for Sunday dinner and ate 2 helpings of pot roast. Asked for my biscuit recipe, helped wash dishes without being asked. When Daniel looked at her, his whole face softened. I thought, this is right. They graduated, moved back to Willow Creek. Sarah got a job at the county hospital. Daniel started at an engineering firm. They saved for a house but stayed with me while looking. I turned the spare room into a nursery when they announced the pregnancy. I knitted booties the size of my thumb. We painted the room pale green, gender neutral. Sarah said. Daniel hung a mobile with tiny stars. I made lasagna every Sunday. The house smelled like garlic and baby powder, and hoped at the cracks were hairline at first. You could almost pretend they weren't there. Sarah's maternity leave ended. She went back to 12-hour shifts. Daniel traveled for work. I became the default babysitter for Emma, tiny, red-faced, perfect. I didn't mind. I'd rock her in the glider at 3 a.m. while Sarah slept, humming the same lullabies I'd sung to Daniel. Emma's first smile was for me. Her first word sounded suspiciously like Mimi. Sarah laughed and said, "She's got you wrapped, Ruth." But the laughter thinned. Sarah started locking the nursery door when she napped, so Emma doesn't wander. Daniel stopped asking my opinion on paint colors or preschool choices. Meals became grabon. I'd cook a roast and find it untouched in the fridge the next day, replaced by takeout containers. I told myself they were tired. New parents, I'd been there. Then the comments begging soft, reasonable, impossible to argue with. One night after Emma's bath, Sarah sighed. "This house is so cluttered, we can barely move." I looked around my mother's hutch. The rocking horse I'd refinished. The gallery wall of Daniel's school photos. Cluttered, it was memory. But I smiled. "I'll tidy the attic." Another evening, Daniel said, "Mom, the stairs are steep. What if you fell?" I was 63, not 90. I walked 3 miles every morning, but I nodded. "I'm careful," Sarah added. "We just worry." Worry sounded like love, so I swallowed the sting. They started house hunting in earnest. Sarah showed me listings on her phone, modern places with granite counters and no porch. "More our style," she said. Daniel scrolled Zillow during dinner. I kept cooking their favorites, chicken and dumplings. Peach cobbler, thinking taste might tether them. It didn't. Emma's first birthday came. I planned a small party in the backyard. Balloons, a sheet cake with buttercream roses. I invited neighbors, Sarah's parents, Daniel's old Little League coach. Sarah pulled me aside 2 days before. "We're keeping it intimate, just family." I canceled the caterer, returned the extra chairs. The party was 6 adults and 1 smash cake. Emma wore the dress I'd smocked. Sarah posted photos with the caption #SimpleJoys. My face wasn't in any of them. That fall, they found their house new construction. Beige siding, no trees. Closing was in December. I helped pack, labeled every box in my neat teacher handwriting. Daniel carried the last load to the moving truck and said, "Thanks, Mom, we'll have you over soon." Soon stretched into weeks, then months. The silence after they left was physical. I'd walk past the empty nursery and hear phantom cries. I left the crib assembled, the mobile spinning lazily in the draft. I baked cookies and drove them over unannounced. Sarah answered in scrubs, hair in a messy bun. "Ruth, we're swamped. Maybe call first." I nodded, left the cookies on the porch. They never mentioned them again. I kept the big house spotless, polished the banister until it gleamed, painted the porch swing the same blue as the day we moved in, planted tulips along the walk. I told myself if it looked loved, they'd want to visit. They didn't. Texts went unanswered. Voicemail filled. Emma's second birthday card came back, returned to sender, moved. No forwarding. Then the conversations turned practical. Sarah called one Tuesday. Ruth, have you thought about downsizing? This place is a lot to maintain. I was on the porch pruning roses. I manage, I said. She sighed the sigh of someone already 3 steps ahead. We're just planning for the future. We. The word included me out. Daniel came alone the next weekend, sat at the kitchen table where he'd done homework for 12 years. He had folders, brochures, retirement villages with pastel names: Sunrise Meadows, Golden Horizons. Mom, these places have nurses on site. No yard work, activities. Activities sounded like a consolation prize. I poured coffee I didn't drink. I'm healthy, Daniel. I walk, I garden. I'm not ready for bingo and jello. He rubbed his neck. It's not about ready. It's about smart. Sarah followed up with emails, links to real estate agents who specialized in senior transitions. Subject lines: your next chapter. I deleted them. Then I stopped deleting and started reading. The way you pick at a scab. The houses looked like hotel rooms. The dining halls looked like school cafeterias. I printed nothing. One Sunday, I drove to their new house uninvited, sat in the driveway until Daniel came out in sweatpants. Mom, what are you doing here? His voice wasn't angry, just tired. I held up a Tupperware of lasagna. Thought you might want real food. He took it but didn't invite me in. Sarah waved from the window, phone to her ear. Emma peeked around her legs, then disappeared. I drove home with the radio off. The lawyer's letter arrived on a Thursday. Thick cream envelope. My name typed in crisp font. Inside, legal documents I didn't understand. Words like quitclaim and power of attorney. My signature at least. A version of it on the bottom of a deed transfer dated 3 years earlier. A note from Daniel. Mom, we did this for tax reasons. You agreed. It simplifies things. I had never seen the paper. I called him. Voicemail. Texted Sarah. Call me. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. I went to the bank on Monday. The teller, Jenny, who used to babysit Daniel, looked sick. Mrs. Carter, your joint account. It's been You're no longer a signer. The balance, my life's savings, every extra shift, every skipped vacation, was now in an account labeled Daniel and Sarah Carter. I asked for a printout. My hands shook so hard the paper tore. That night, I sat at the kitchen table until the clock struck 2. The house creaked like it was mourning with me. I opened the junk drawer: rubber bands, old coupons, the key to a padlock I'd lost years ago, and found the coffee can label from 1994. House. I traced the letters Daniel had colored with crayon. The paper was soft, almost cloth. I packed 1 suitcase, not in anger, in clarity. 2 cardigans, 3 blouses, my good slacks, the navy dress I wore to his wedding, my mother's locket, the photo of Daniel at 7, gap-toothed and sunburned, holding a fish almost as big as he was. I left the wedding album, the baby book, the box of his childhood artwork. Those belonged to the house now. I wrote a note on the same kitchen table where I'd helped with algebra and patched Halloween costumes. Daniel and Sarah, I love you more than these walls. If this house is yours, take good care of it. The cherry tree needs pruning in February. The porch step still squeaks third from the top. I'm sorry if I held on too tight. I only ever wanted to keep you safe. Love, always. Mom, I left it under the salt shaker shaped like a chicken, the one he'd picked out at a yard sale when he was 9. The next morning, I went to the grocery store. Same routine: aisle 7 for bread, aisle 3 for milk. I smiled at Mrs. Larson, who asked after Daniel. He's busy, I said. She patted my hand. I paid with the last 20 in my purse. When I returned, the locks were changed. The note was on the door, rain already curling the edges. My keys slid in but wouldn't turn. I knocked, called, texted, nothing. I walked to the shed. The door stuck the way it always had. Inside, the air was cool and earthy. I found the picnic blanket, the one with sailboats now threadbare. I curled on the narrow bench, knees to chest, and let the dark hold me. Sometime before dawn, I slept. Morning smelled like wet leaves. My phone buzzed. Clara, my friend from the diner days. Coffee. I typed, can you pick me up? Outside, she arrived in her old Buick, No questions, just a thermos of coffee, and a hug that smelled like vanilla and safety. She drove me to her house on the other side of town. The guest room had a quilt my mother had pieced. I cried into it until the squares blurred. Clara listened while I told her everything. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes. When I finished, she said, "You're staying here, as long as you need. And Ruth, we're calling June." June was the lawyer who'd helped Clara after her divorce, pro bono for women who've been done wrong. June's office smelled like lemon polish and justice. She spread the documents across her desk like tarot cards. Forgery, undue influence, financial abuse of a vulnerable adult. The words sounded like weapons. I flinched. "He's my son," I whispered. June's eyes softened. "That makes it worse, not better. But we don't have to go to court if you don't want. We can start with a letter." I didn't want court. I wanted my boy to look me in the eye and explain why love had an expiration date. June sent the letter polite, firm, requesting return of my funds and clarification on the deed. Daniel's response came via email. CC'd to Sarah, "Mom, we're consulting our own attorney. Please direct further communication through counsel." Counsel, like I was a stranger. I lived in Clara's guest room for 4 months. She refused rent. Said I'd earned a soft landing after 30 years of hard ones. I got a part-time job at the library shelving books, reading stories to toddlers on Thursday mornings. The children called me Miss Ruth. Their sticky fingers reached for my locket. I let them. Their mothers thanked me for the calm voice. I started to remember. I had June negotiated. Daniel returned half my savings wired, without a note. The house stayed in their names. The lawyer said we could fight, but it would take years and every spoon of energy I had left. I signed the settlement, not surrender. Survival. Spring unfurled. Clara helped me find an apartment above the bakery, small sunny, with a balcony barely big enough for 2 chairs and a pot of geraniums. The first night, I sat on the floor eating takeout lo mein from the carton, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. It sounded like possibility. I painted the walls the same robin's egg blue from the old living room, hung the photo of Daniel at 7, bought a tiny table at the thrift store, and sanded it myself. The baker downstairs left cinnamon rolls outside my door every Sunday. I left thank you notes and jars of blackberry jam. I walked every morning past the park, the duck pond, the high school where Daniel once hit a home run that cracked the scoreboard. I sat on the same bench and watched grandmas with strollers. I didn't ache the way I used to. The hurt had settled into something manageable. Like a low-grade fever, I volunteered at the women's shelter on Tuesdays, taught cooking classes, simple things, soup, cornbread, apple crisp. The women were younger than me, older than me, every shade of bruised. I'd stir the pot and say, "You are not what was done to you." They'd cry into the broth. We'd eat together. The table always felt full. One Thursday, a new resident, Maria, 42, 2 kids, asked if she could call me Mama Ruth. I said yes, before I thought about it. She moved into her own place in August, invited me for tea. Her daughter drew me a picture, stick figured me with a big smile and a heart balloon. I taped it to my fridge. Daniel called on my 69th birthday. I let it ring to voicemail. His voice was thin. "Mom, happy birthday. Emma keeps asking about her Mimi. We miss you, miss." The word hung in the air like smoke. I didn't call back. Sarah sent a Christmas card, store-bought, no message inside. I put it in the drawer with the others. Emma turned 4. I mailed a handmade ragdoll with yarn braids, no return address. I joined a grief group at the library, mostly widows, a few divorced dads. We met in the basement, drank bad coffee, told true stories. One man, Harold, lost his wife to cancer and his son to distance. He said, "Love doesn't always come home, but it still counts." I wrote that in my journal. That summer brought the county fair. I entered my blackberry jam blue ribbon. The judge, a woman I'd waitressed with in 1982, hugged me hard. Ruth Carter, still the best cook in Willow Creek. I laughed until I cried in the parking lot. 2 years have passed since the night in the shed. I still walk past the old house sometimes. The cherry tree towers over the fence. Someone painted the porch white and replaced the swing with Adirondack chairs. Tulips I planted line the walk red, yellow, defiant. I don't slow down anymore. My legs know the way to my own door. Last month, I saw Daniel at the farmer's market. He was buying peaches, Emma on his hip. She wore braids and a gap-toothed grin, my grin, from old photos. He saw me and froze. I smiled, small but real. "Hi, Daniel." His eyes filled. Emma reached for me. Mimi, the name cracked something open and patched it at the same time. We stood between the tomato stand and the honey lady. He asked how I was. I said, good, really good. He said the new house felt too big, the yard too quiet. They were thinking of selling. I nodded. Places change. People do too. Emma tugged my sleeve. I gave her the strawberry I'd bought for myself. She ate it in 3 bites, juice on her chin. He asked if we could talk sometime. I said, maybe. Not yes, not no. A door cracked open, not flung wide. He looked relieved and terrified. We parted with the smell of kettle corn in the air. That night, I baked peach cobbler, the recipe I used to make when he came home from college with laundry and stories. I brought a plate to Maria's new apartment. Her kids fought over the corner pieces. We laughed until our sides hurt. I keep a small garden on my balcony. Now rosemary, cherry tomatoes, 1 stubborn hydrangea. The baker's cat visits every morning. I call him Biscuit. He lets me scratch behind his ears like I once did for Daniel when nightmares woke him. Forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 small choices. Answering the phone or letting it ring. Saving the voicemail or deleting it. Baking the cobbler or buying it frozen. I choose in pieces. Some days I'm angry at Daniel, at Sarah, at the girl I was who thought love meant never letting go. Other days I'm grateful for Clara, for June, for the women at the shelter who remind me I'm not alone. If I could tell you one thing, it's this. Home is portable. It lives in the songs you hum, the recipes you carry in your head, the way you set a table for one and still light a candle. I lost the house. I didn't lose myself. The rain still falls sometimes. I keep an umbrella by the door and a quilt on the couch. My key turns smooth in the lock. The apartment smells like coffee and geraniums and the faint sweetness of cinnamon rolls from downstairs. When I close my eyes, I see the cherry tree in full bloom, petals drifting like slow snow. I see Daniel at 7, waving from the tire swing. I see myself at 68, waving back from a balcony that is mine. Love doesn't always come home, but it plants seeds anyway. Some grow in the dark, some wait years for light. I water mine every morning. Thank you for listening. If you're holding on so tight your hands hurt, try opening 1 finger at a time. You won't lose everything. You might gain the space to hold something new. Good night, sweethearts. The porch light is on for you.